Administrative remedy. Ever heard the statement, "The Constitution has no place in the courts and your life"? When one argues a constitutional position, whether in the courts or society, that position will not prevail. Why? We grew up with the concept of personal freedom and constitutional rights, yet, even to the most casual observer, America is not free. The Constitution is not in effect in the courts of this land. Ask any judge, he will quickly tell you the Constitution is not permitted in his courtroom. Every company, corporate entity, or any organization is governed by a charter, bylaws, or some sort of constitution that will legally dictate and control the operation. Ever stop to consider that if the Constitution is not the charter for the federal government and society, what is the law of that society? Then what is the law and constitution of the federal government and society in which we live? The Uniform Commercial Code. If you think that is a stretch of the imagination, study through the contents of this website. You will come to a legal understanding of how/why you have become a slave to the society, democracy, around you. Then you will understand how to regain your freedom and constitutional rights. The only thing prohibiting your freedom is legal awareness and lack of information. All, i.e., everything or action you do is commercial. You cannot function except through a commercial contract. It is well established that a legal fiction, corporation, government, etc., cannot directly approach a private individual when government, court, tax, and corporate agents approach you in person, via the mail, over the phone, etc. They are soliciting your consent for voluntarily entering into a commercial contract and doing business. The controlling law for these contracts is the Uniform Commercial Code. All governments are corporate, for-profit operations. The U.S. federal government and its administrative agencies bring suits against people and other government entities every day. In the legal system there is no difference between civil and criminal jurisdictions, each is commercial. All crime, including murder, is commercial, i.e., has a monetary value affixed there. 227 CFR 72:11 spells this out in unequivocal terms. Nowadays it is common for both artificial and flesh and blood entities to settle criminal charges out of court, i.e., via payment. Note: committing a crime is a physical impossibility for an artificial person/corporation, but such are charged criminally almost every day. The Uniform Commercial Code at Article 1, Section 103 it states: Section 1 to 103 Supplementary General Principles of Law applicable. Unless displaced by the particular provisions of this Act, the principles of law and equity, including the law merchant and the law relative to capacity to contract, principal and agent, estoppel, fraud, misrepresentation, duress, coercion, mistake, bankruptcy, or other validating or invalidating cause shall supplement its provisions. What they're telling us is that all other law, common, constitutional, equity, bankruptcy, etc., is only supplemental to the supreme law of the land, the Uniform Commercial Code. If we don't proceed on the basis upon which they proceed, then we will lose due to failure to procedure, not substance. A little more. The information here is compiled right from the UCC code, right from the latest changes, and from some of the most powerful codes this planet has ever seen, and I mean planet. In order to understand what it is that we actually do, I need to go back and explain why we're doing what we're doing. The whole thing started obviously when we had 13 signers to an original Declaration of Independence that was an underlying contract that was signed by 13 different leaders that said no more. We are done, we are independent from you, we are going to do our own thing. And that contract led up to another one which is known as the Constitution, and another the Bill of Rights, etc., 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 the Articles of the Confederation. These contracts were what formed a nation here over 200 years ago. It was formed under contract and sub-formed under codes, rules and regulations. In 1871 the United States set up a system that was called the District of Columbia Organic Act. At that point in time there was only a government and a people, individually based upon the contracts that were written almost 100 years prior to the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, etc., etc. This new act, called the District of Columbia Organic Act, created the first corporate government that the United States of America has ever seen, and it created a new wild beast that most people don't see because it's corporate America. It has everything to do with commerce, it's under contract law. Shortly thereafter, they created what is known as the Bureau of Vital Statistics. The Bureau of Vital Statistics is what formed a birth certificate, Chattel paper. This birth certificate was the first time that the United States ever seen a corporate person known as a dummy, a straw man, a juristic person, or any other kind of fictitious corporation that you can put in your mind and just think about, is a fiction, third-party front, a dummy. It is not you. It is a word that reflects chattel paper. It's a contract. These contracts enabled the corporate United States to contract with a corporate U.S. I've heard many people, attended many different seminars, I've read a lot of different information, and I've talked to a lot of people who use the UCC. And the UCC is a contract, but what people have to understand is how they incorporated themselves. They see that one of the biggest problems with some of past or even present information that's out there is a lot of people want to go back to the law. Well, under these contracts that we're speaking of, you became a surety. The surety was responsible to pay for all this corporation's new existence, such as the Federal Reserve, such as the IRS, such as the Social Security Administration. I hope that everyone out there understands why this corporation is starting to exist and how it came about and how they get to us. They don't deal with us, they deal with our dummy straw mans. The fictional your driver's license, your Social Security card, most all bills that you get, most anything you get will have your straw man's name. It's your name in all capital letters. It is a created U.S. citizen you, not the real flesh and blood you. It is your front. When they started to contract and they switched over our gold, which was in 1933, they took all of our gold and they started using a paper currency, which is a Federal Reserve note, the dollar bills that we carry around. When they created that new little creature, the corporate America was free to use as much of this paper currency it wanted to. It didn't have to use the gold and silver, so it could just exchange promises from one hand to another again. All of this, you have to sit back and understand that a corporation is coming after you, not Mr. General Motors. General Motors the nobody, it is just a fiction. The information that we've gotten and use is compiled from many years of research, study, trial, and a lot of errors, because people can't understand the whole concept behind it, which I couldn't either. I didn't even grasp that at one point in my life. The information that we're going to give you is how to protect yourself, how to make yourself secure from liens, levies, and judgments, how to be able to look at yourself, your spouse and kids and say, I'm free, let me do whatever I want to do, and I'll be a responsible person and I'll just do it, and it really will change your life forever, because you will be able to stand there and say, no thank you, I do not want to do business with you. It really is that simple once you understand the concept. Our concept is not going into court. A lot of people have to. A lot of people wait until the last minute to decide that they have to do something, and then they're normally caught in a fire drill, and that's a lot of times when mistakes are made. Because it's so fast, we call this a fire drill. So we're trying to recommend to everybody out there to get your hands on something ahead of time. Do something well in advance before you have a problem, and that way you're pretty much protected. And the reason I say that is not to say that, well, if I start doing this paperwork, am I going to draw attention? No. The point I am trying to make here is that the percentages of people who have some form of issue, whether it be by a local official, a state official, federal official, your county commissioner, your tax guy, the local cop down on the corner by Dunkin' Donuts, everywhere you turn they're asking for money. The bottom line is, you get a speeding ticket, they're asking you for money, then they want your tax line, you turn here, and they take it out of your paycheck, you turn back this way and they slap you in jail and then take more of it, then they come take your house. Problems happen to people all the time. If you look at it, the percentage of people that have some form of issue with any of those agencies is extremely high, and it will probably happen to you sooner or later. So, what our program does is give you the knowledge and it give you the opinion, education to be able to stop living a life like that and just say, I want to live my own life. I don't care about that person there, I care about me, and me wants to be free. That's the way we look at it, and I know a lot of other people do too. The new Article 9 provisions inside of this UCC just revolutionized a lot of things, and that's what we base our information on. Our information is accurate, up to date, and it works, because if you look inside the Bill of Rights, most people know we got them, but most people don't understand what the two sections are. You have to stand back and look at the overlying contract. Article 1 through 5 are constitutional safeguards. It says we have the right to speak, we have the right to keep our guns, we have the right. That's the first 5. Well, the last 5 are against our elected officials, saying, you can't do this, and you can't do that. Well, why is it we can't drive down the road without getting pulled over, asking for money? Because we have contracted our entire lives away and didn't even realize it. We contracted for a house, we contracted for a car, we contracted for a credit card, We contract for everything. You're still a sovereign human being, you just have to uncontract all the small implied adhesion contracts that you're attached to by your own signature. Signature, the act of putting one's name at the end of an instrument to attest its validity. Black's Law Dict, 6th ed. Autograph, one's handwriting, written with one's own hand. Ibid. So what the UCC does is it actually goes in, it allows you to take those contracts and regain ownership of those listed properties. Once you have regained control, you can stand up and say, "This is my contract, I don't agree or consent." The consent thing is a large one. It's something that has worked in all levels, it works everywhere because it is the law. I'd like to repeat that because it is the law. When you're looking at a consensual encounter, the first that happens when you get pulled over, for instance, what happens to you? What do they do to you? What's the first thing they ask you for? Can I see your driver's license, registration, or can I see your papers? They are asking you to voluntarily give them some papers so that they can prosecute you. Why? Because they have the contract and they can do that. You signed that driver's license, you didn't know it, but you signed all your rights away, you didn't even know it. From the Fourth Amendment is where we get this consent thing. And your Fourth Amendment is probably the most powerful amendment, powerful law, and powerful set of words in law that I can think of. If you have anything that you would like to study on, outside of our website, it should be the Fourth Amendment, Brown versus Texas. Consent. I do not agree or consent. What they are doing to you is that they as a corporation are coming up to you as a corporation and asking you to contract with them. They have no evidence that you are anything but that fiction. I'm sorry, I don't want to do business with you. And the information works because of the way that the code is set up. It enables you to make claims on your property. That's what the UCC is. So many people that I talked to in the past have said, you file your UCC and your problems will go away. That is so far from the truth. I don't even want to comment any further than that. A UCC-1 is an asset protector and it allows you to register property that you are making a claim upon. That is what it is. If there is no claim, you can't claim back on it. So right now, up until this point, if you're new to this, you didn't understand any of what we just said, but it's starting to become clear to you now, as though it's a corporation against a corporation, and you have to step back behind the scene there and realize that the IRS, the state of Michigan, the United States, are all fictions coming after you. They don't exist. You can't call Mr. IRS to the stand in a courtroom, he won't show up. We've been looking for him for years, we can't find him. We've been looking for another guy called society for quite some time, but we can't find him either. They don't exist. So, if they don't exist, then they can't make the claim on the property. You can, though. Once you make your claim, you got a claim in there. If anyone was to try to infiltrate your property, now you have stated a claim, under which release can be granted to you. You now hold a superior claim in the format that we're using. This information goes directly at the individual, so to speak, not the IRS, but the agent working for them. The fiction does not exist. Only the agents that are moving the fiction. What we have to offer is the information that goes to them. It informs them, it lets them know, I have a claim, please provide me with superior claim if you want me to perform/pay. They do not have it. A synopsis: there is a corporate government and a real government, and they have created a fictional you, which is known as a straw man, and this corporate government is doing just what McDonald's is doing. When you pull up to McDonald's, may I help you? Sure, I'll take that and that. Okay, that will cost you $5.68. They are conducting business with you, and you have the right to decide whether you want to conduct business with them. You can do so with whomever you wish to. If you don't wish to do business with somebody, you don't have to. No one can force you to. It is the same concept. It's just we set our groundwork and do our claim ahead of time. We're learning to conduct our commercial affairs for our protection and benefit rather than for the quasi-government's advantage, or any other person's or corporation's benefit. Filing a UCC-1 is done through a FCUSA exclusive online process and not filed with the Secretary of State. This keeps the control with you via your agent. FCUSA, when you file with the SOS, they keep the original papers and thus retain control of your documents to do as they please, not as you please. The sooner we learn, the more capable we become in protecting ourselves, our families, our property, and our interests. Welcome to the real world. You are coming out of the real world of the Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland. Once you file your UCC-1 correctly, GL process, you can begin an administrative remedy, R, An R is based on Admiralty law, which goes way back and consists of a series of 8 letters which is sent to the CEO of the lending institution that your mortgage, debt, aka credit card, student loan, auto loan, IRS, was filed with. Each of the letters must be notarized prior to being sent and is very precise in wording and content. Basically, you first must determine who you wish to file an R against. This can be any creditor or any lending institution who committed fraud by obtaining funds. Based on the use of your straw man on the international market, these lending institutions are a legitimate source for an R. In the case of a mortgage, auto loan or student loan, you will need the amount paid to the bank to date, principal, interest and late fees. This is your claim amount. In the case of a credit card or line of credit, simply use the highest credit limit given you regardless of balance or amount paid. This is your claim amount. The total claim amount for each bank is then multiplied by 4 for compensatory damages, then 200 for punitive damages, for a total of 800 times your claim amount. This is your total award amount. At completion of the process, the notarial judgment will be submitted for payment and you will be eligible for a percentage of this total.